Hey guys, what is up? It's Lewpac here with another Albion Online video for you. And today I'm bringing you the continuation of the earlier Gatherer's Beginner Guide that I released recently. Today we've got the Ultimate Gatherer's Power Leveling Guide. This is fully updated for 2019 post-Oberon. Previous guides you might have seen on YouTube could be outdated with incorrect information. Enchant rates have been shifted around. For the earlier tiers, there's new aspect guardians. There's so much that you have to factor in now. This guide is kind of aimed at people that know what they're doing with gatherings. You need to have at least an understanding of the world and the terminology of Albion. If you're confused in any way, then go back to the Gatherer's Beginner's Guide and sort of get the basics under wraps. This is, you know, the absolute power leveling guide. This isn't about making money. You know, this isn't about generating resources. This is about leveling up to the maximum tier tool the absolute quickest you can. So the only difference is with stone, you're not worried about the enchant rates. Other than that, you know, the other 4 gathering types all follow the same sort of pattern. So first things first, tier 1 to tier 3, you'll pretty much do during the tutorial. You should probably aim to get all of your gathering to at least tier 3 before you leave the tutorial areas with a new character anyway. So we assume that you're already tier 3. So first things first, from tier 3 to tier 5, you want to get the absolute biggest mount capacity you can, whether that's a mammoth or an ox. It doesn't matter, the biggest you can get your hands on, and you want to head out to the Royal Zone hotspots for tier 4. So these can be found on the map in the various biomes. You'll see there's a little picture of the resource, and that is the hotspot. And quite simply, you want to head out there with plenty of pies, and you want to gather absolutely everything you see. Even if you're tier 4, you're not worrying about enchanted stuff. You are just volume gathering everything in sight. If it's tier 2, 3 or 4, you gather it. It doesn't matter. It's all fame. Like the tier 2 and the tier 3 will gather quicker. So the fact that they give less fame than the tier 4 doesn't matter because you pick them up quicker. You should be able to carry everything on your mount. And honestly, like, if you get to max capacity and you're still not quite tier 5, then maybe just delete some stuff. It's honestly not even worth the trip to town if you're trying to power level. Just delete a stack and carry on gathering. So just brute force these zones. This should get you to tier 4 when you use learning points. Then you get 20% through tier 4. You use learning points to tier 5. At that point, you gather everything you've got from that zone. You head back to town, you sell it off or whatever, and you move on to the next stage of the plan. So tier 5 to tier 6. The best way to do this is Aspect Guardians. It takes 3 full Aspect Guardians to go from tier 5 to tier 6. Just 3 of them, right? And you'll get to 20% through tier 5, which is when you can use learning points. You want to definitely be using learning points for every tool up to tier 6 at least. We'll talk a bit more about that in a bit. So the Aspect Guardians, if you've seen my solo kill guides and you're comfortable with that, you can solo these Aspect Guardians. Remember, because you're tier 5, you can only kill flat aspects. When you down one, it will take you approximately 20 minutes to clear a full aspect, at which point you want to run to town, dump off the resources, and go looking for another one. Tier 5 to tier 6 used to be the hardest part of leveling gathering. It used to be the absolute killer. And what people used to do was go to Mercia for the enchant rates and hang around the town plots of Mercia gathering 4 and 5 enchanted until they got to the tier 6 level. This is much, much quicker. This is absolutely insane. Like I've done it on a character. Getting lucky with the aspect locations and having guildies help me set them up. I've done tier 5 to tier 6 with learning points in 2.5 hours, which is ridiculously fast. Now, you may struggle with soloing these, in which case you'll need guildies to help. One thing that might help you get this done even quicker is offer cash incentives for anybody that's able to find an aspect for you, and even more a bonus if they'll help you kill it if you're struggling with soloing. But with regarding the aspects themselves and the individual ones, go and check out my solo guides in the World Bosses playlist on this YouTube channel. That will help you immensely with dealing with them. Also the world bosses. The world bosses do need a group to take down, but if you can get in on a world boss at tier 5 and do some gathering on it, you will level insanely fast. Now remember, hitting an Aspect Guardian is the equivalent of clearing 100 tier 6 nodes all in a row, and it takes 1/5 of the time. The world bosses, each hit on the world boss is the equivalent of clearing 2 full nodes, right? So you're doing it 10 times faster without having to move. That's why these are the ultimate power leveling mechanic for gatherers. Now, if you absolutely cannot get aspects and you absolutely cannot get world bosses for whatever reason, then what you want to do is you want to head to the red zones in the Royal Continent and look for the zones with the 40% tier 5 enchant rate. Then you want to run around those and just gather as much enchanted tier 5 as you can. This is a lot slower than aspects, but it's the quickest way to do it outside of aspects. And on top of that, doing the tier 5 enchant will make you a shed load of money. So we've done our aspects, or we've got our way to the LP to tier 6. And then from tier 6 onwards, it's pretty simple. I mean, from here, personally, I've not used any LP for leveling my tools. It's so fast now due to aspects, which we talked about earlier, enchants and world bosses, that I've gone tier 6 to 7 and 7 to 8 without using LP. If you want to accelerate yourself and you do have the LP available, you can use the LP to jump up a tool level. And once you hit tier 8, I would say it's okay to use LP for masteries, particularly in the hard ones like tier 8, 7 and 5. Outside of aspects and world bosses, you should be hanging around in the Outlands hotspots. These are the best places to go. The Mercia ones being the absolute best because of the higher enchant rates, but they're also the most dangerous. But you've got 2 sections of hotspots in Anglia, 1 in Cumbria and 1 in Mercia, each comprised of 4 outer resource tiles and then the central boss tile, which also contains, high level resources and a good enchant rate. A few rules as well when you're power leveling your gathering. Never gather up, which was also in the beginner's guide, but it's worth saying again, the only exceptions to this are when you're tier 3, it's okay to gather tier 4, and when you're tier 5, it's okay to gather aspects and world bosses. Because they're so much quicker by default, the fact that you gather them slower doesn't matter, and in fact aspects are the way we go from 5 to 6. It is hands down the absolute best way. Always use your gathering gear whenever you can, and always gather with a pie no matter how low your level is. Remember, if you are gathering up for aspects, you don't need gathering gear because it has no effect until you're tier 6. But always use a pie, and always use the speed boost ability on your chest. This is it's a longish cooldown, but every time you activate it, it boosts your gathering speed a little bit for a while. And especially at the higher level resources, which are slower, it's worth doing. So again, some of my top tips as well for the aspect stuff is be willing to shell out for the aspect locations. I was offering between 50 and 100k bounty for any aspect locations, and back before I was comfortable for soloing them, I was offering 50k to each person that would help me do them. Again, this guide is not about making money, it's about leveling as hard and fast as possible. So getting your guildies to help you just speeds the kills, particularly if the aspect location is very public. If it's in the middle of a crossroads or in a really obvious spot, you might not want to risk sort of 10 minutes of soloing and 20 minutes of gathering without a bit of alliance support. So that is basically my tips for power leveling gathering in 2019. It is honestly easier than ever because Oberon enhanced the XP rate from gathering in terms of leveling up to the next tool, but it still takes just as long to get the mastery. But this guide will have you to tier 8 in no time. My main character, which I turned into an aspect hunter, had pretty much no gathering. And through using this method, hunting aspects, learning to solo all 5 of the aspects, from pretty much no gathering skills, he's now tier 8 stone, tier 7, practically tier 8 ore. I'm a few 100k away from tier 7 fiber, and I've got tier 6 in wood and leather as well. So I'm tier 6 at least in all of the gathering professions using these methods, and I'm working on tier 8 in all of them, you know, as and when it takes my fancy. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this power leveling guide. Let me know your thoughts, and if you've got any tips and tricks for people down below in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind, because it really does help the videos get more visibility on YouTube. And if you love the content, maybe consider becoming a subscriber on Patreon. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.